both of us, I guess, could kindly be described as, if not eccentric, at least a little bit different.
Eccentric. I think you're only allowed to be eccentric if you're rich. We are both
Or
English,
old.
though. But I think only rich people, like
Ah,
poor people aren't eccentric. They're just nutters. Rich people are
okay. Well, where do we fit then?
nutters. Hello, Joe Prigmore. How are you doing?
I'm well, thank you, Mick. How are you?
I'm not so bad. I'm slightly hairier than the last time you saw me, and you're
You are. I'm a paler pink than last
and
time
you're a
in the
slightly
hair
paler
department.
pink. Yeah, you must be due. You definitely must be due some sort of colour change, Joe.
Must be. Yes, it's
Most
quite
natural.
faded at the moment.
Almost natural. Okay. Preemptive overreactions, which is what I decided to call my blog thing that I'm doing on Substack for various reasons, but one just because I thought it was quite funny. I think it's important to overreact to things before they become an issue. So let's be preemptively overreactive. It also felt very appropriate to what safety people do.
Yeah, I was going to ask you actually how you came up with the name because I liked it, but I didn't really know what you were aiming at.
I don't really know. I think I was just writing words down as I ever want to do when I'm trying to think of a name for something. And thinking,
Ah,
what do safety people do? And I was going, well, they overreact, isn't it? And I was saying, well, what do I want to
knee-jerk
write?
reaction
And
sometimes.
yes. And yeah, huge amount of reaction. I think I did have knee jerk on there. And then that sort of went to, well, what do I want to do? I want to try and preempt the overreactions. So then it just became preemptive overreactions.
It's got a
Um,
nice flow to it. I like the pair of words.
are you a spider, Joe?
I I really like you've made me think so much, Mick. I've actually got like a page and a half of notes where I had to debrief my own mind about about whether you can be safe if you know there's a spider in the room. It freaked me out.
But that's the thing, and I think that's where I was sort of going with it. I've been asking people what safe is for years now. I'm really curious about what people think safe is. Yeah, so I've been asking this question for a long time, and I think as I wrote in the thing, like I tend to get three sort of answers out of it. People tell me what safety is, which is a very different question, I think. Um, People come with the, absence of harm sort of thing. And
Which is a bit
then,
bleh.
yeah, well, yeah. And then the people I say who are right, who tend to think it's some sort of emotional response to something, which is what I think when I think of safe. Do I feel safe? The word, because I can say feel safe. Do you feel safe? Which means it's got to be a feeling, which means it's got to be an emotion.
Yeah, I don't think I've ever thought about it that much before, but you made me think about it, which is why I enjoy reading your Substacks.
But I think that's really interesting, from somebody like yourself who's worked in safety for as long as anybody I know,
Yeah.
that it isn't front of mind when we think about what we do.
No,
And
no, it's weird, isn't it? I think that's what made me think, actually.
because then I sort of look at, well, what are we trying to achieve then? Because can I make you safe as an individual? Probably. Like you and all of your foibles. I'm not going to say that, Joe, but as any individual, I think we can all go, okay, yes, we know what makes us feel safe. We can create an environment where we can be that. But that doesn't necessarily mean that where I feel safe is going to be the same as where you do.
I think that was the bit that I like because I've been moving more into the well-being space and I've just done a bit of study on it. It was really the psychological safety aspect that made me think differently than the physical safety aspect.
Sure.
Because physical safety, with my background, I tend to think about guards and stuff, so you
Mhm.
can't put your fingers in the bitey bits. But the psychological safety, especially as a female, I don't know if this works the same for blokes, but you might meet someone who seems perfectly normal and reasonable and nice on the surface, but your gut feel is, I will never be in a room on my own with this person.
And
I'm just
also,
never going to let that happen.
I think that's true, and I think it's true. But I think blokes feel exactly the same, to be honest. I think they're just often too, well, blokey to admit it. But I often think it also works the other way. So I think we miss interacting with people who are really interesting and cool and nice because of the way they look. You emotionally react to things based on your experience, whether that experience is, well, it's always valid to you, isn't it?
As a safety person, I get away with asking different questions on site, or people will tell me more things about their job and the way they do their job because just because I'm a female and they forget that I'm a safety person quicker.
Do you think um
And because I chat until
I
they
should
give me
just because I've noticed these are lying here and they made me giggle, which is why I have them. I'm going to send you one.
board of wellness. For people who are only listening, board of wellness with an ashtray and a lit cigarette image in the middle.
Some beer mats that I saw and thought they were very funny. Um, I think there's probably different because again it's individual approaches as well, isn't it?
Yeah,
You're pretty well known. You're known as being, choose happy.
see,
You are as, as having pink hair and being easily approachable and not being judgmental and that. So I think therefore, especially within Fulton Hogan, I think within the safety community, people feel comfortable talking to you.
I
Um,
think, yeah, it's quite interesting, isn't it? You're right. But I'm not sure. I haven't tried to make that image, possibly because I'm not a consultant. I'm not trying to do that. I'm able to just be myself. But sometimes I think people are more worried about being professional without realizing that that might not be as approachable for some people
it,
because of the suits aspect.
I suppose it's because I'm not what I think well, I don't think I'm a typical safety person. I'll ask Joe nicely, but I'll put the YouTube video of us chatting on
Yeah,
this and you
all
can
good.
see how ridiculous I look. But I don't think I generally look like a standard professional consultant. But I find that people are often surprised when they meet me what I'm actually like compared to what people perceive that I'm like because of the writing that I do.
Yeah.
I think people think I'm a lot more angry and confrontational than genuinely am in a day-to-day environment.
But, and again, though, right? And this comes back to that perception bit. I don't find your writing angry. I find it challenging and it makes me think. And the fact that we might not always agree doesn't stop us being mates.
Yeah. And that's the thing that really, has always concerned me. I think it's that, and that's where that psych safety thing comes back in. So I sort of sit in quite a weird space here, right? So I'm engineering background, so I should in theory be guards and safety and physical
And
safety.
not peoply is my
And
very rude thing I say about
yeah,
engineers,
and
but
not
only
very.
when they reach me.
But I like that's probably why I got into safety. But it soon lost its interest. To me, it's like I'm not like that to that. Like I always tell people, I'm the worst hazard spotter in the world. Like I'm not
I'm
looking,
not great, to be fair.
you know. But it's not generally where my brain lives. But
I'm
I
quite good at being quiet till someone else tells me where the hazards
but I am quite fascinated by how people respond to things. Um, so here's an example. Here's a question for you, Joe. Right?
are.
So the wondrous world of hop, which is apparently the thing that we all need to do these days, the,
Yeah.
you know, it's what we can sell to the general public. So the second principle of hop is blame fixes nothing. All right. But does that also mean then that reward doesn't do anything? Because what we're saying is you're not responsible for your actions if you've done something wrong. That, it's a genuine mistake or a genuine accident that something has occurred and that's terrible. Because it's an environmental thing. So it's an environmental factor based on the system that you're working in that something's gone wrong. Seems reasonable. But then if I say, is that not also true if you're successful? If you're successful in your work, is that not due also to the environmental factor, which you have very little responsibility in and very little thing doing? So we reward people for operating in a good system well, and we blame people for operating in a bad system badly. I don't know.
Okay, I,
So
I want
is
to
it
answer your
different?
question with a question.
Yeah.
So to me, it's not about the blame or the reward, even though I know that's the words people use. It's about the accountability, right? Because you can't congratulate, well, you can congratulate me if I won the lottery as I ran away on holiday, but that's luck, right? That's not
Yeah.
success,
Yeah.
or not success that I deserve,
Yeah.
if you like. And that's
Okay.
where the blame bit comes in for me, is if I have been a complete, I'm trying to think of a polite word that I can.
Muppet.
I'm trying not to use that word with my pink hair, but yes, Muppet will do. If I've done something blatantly reckless, let's say, is a better example than a Muppet, perhaps, then yeah, blame might not help, but accountability might, and there's a subtle difference.
Okay, then. So here, let me ask you another question then. So can you be accountable for something for working in a system that you didn't develop? So can you be truly accountable if you weren't involved in how it was put together?
I would argue, and this comes back to your spider in the room suits thing, that it would depend on whether you've told people if the system was stupid or not. Because so often, I think, we blame people after an accident, but when you do a bit more of a dig, actually, they're just doing what everybody has done. And maybe people did say there was a problem with it early on, but if it didn't get dealt with, people just work around stuff.
So I've been watching and listening to a lot of sort of philosophy stuff recently, and some of it's really fascinating. It's something
Is
to
that
be
is
honest.
that influencing the new look?
Maybe it is. Maybe I'm just going to do philosophy. Somebody, I had a flowery shirt on the other day, and somebody told me I looked like what was it? A cross between Santa Claus and James May, which I wasn't upset about either way, really, to be honest. People senior in organisations, I think, like to pretend that they don't make emotional decisions. So they like to pretend that it's based on facts and figures and things that they're presented with. Okay. But then I'm like, well, are you just justifying your emotional response using data, or are you actually using the data to make a decision?
If it was purely on the data, none of us would have to do much stakeholder engagement and figuring out who we needed to get on our side before we presented things to people for decision, right? If it was just on the data, you'd show them the data that it made sense and it would happen. There's got to be some emotional stuff or some non-logic stuff in there.
Because I don't think they were particularly logical, but also, and this is what I've come to a sort of realization, which, although as a philosophical concept, I think is important in safety, that we genuinely don't have a lot of free will.
Many people would not feel comfortable dressing or appearing or arguing with people the way that we are both comfortable with.
True.
So we are still within that system, that peer pressure system. We just give less shit.
Is that an age thing then?
I don't know. I haven't known you all your life, but I don't think I have changed particularly much. I think I've always been quite like this.
I always say that I wish I knew as much as I did when I was 16. I think I was more firm in my views when I was younger. I think the older I get, the less confident I am in my opinions.
Because you know more other stuff to challenge it, right?
Maybe I'm just more open, or maybe I'm just more comfortable in myself that I can be. And I
Yeah.
think maybe that's one of the emotional things. So maybe why I am comfortable challenging people is because almost assume that people are going to take it the way that I would.
Yeah.
Whereas whereas in reality, a
Lots
lot
of
of
people
people don't
know.
and take it
I think
personally.
I was brought up that mum, I was lucky, I think, that mum was like, if you think you're right, or if something isn't right or it's unfair, you should feel comfortable to stand up for it. And I was able to do that to the point of arguing with teachers at school if I thought they'd worked something out wrong. And usually I was right, which is particularly annoying for them. But that's outside of a lot of people's comfort zones.
I probably used to argue about things that I was wrong about, probably, and it's with a similar vehement. Okay, so who are the spiders then? Who in organization are the spiders in the room?
For me, the spiders, it's a personality or a personal thing rather than a role based thing.
How do you know if you're a spider or not?
But it mostly boils down in my world to don't be a dick, right? So whatever someone's saying to you or whatever they're doing, don't be a dick, take a breath, figure out what's going on in their head. But the little story that someone told me once was, if you go out in the morning and the first person you meet is a bit of an asshole, a bit of a dick, you might, maybe you're having a bad day. And if the next person you meet that day is being a bit of an asshole, a bit of a dick, well, you really are having a bad day. And if the third person you meet is being a bit of an asshole and a bit of a dick, you're the asshole.
Because people change around certain individuals. We can't, you know.
But
So
again,
I do want to do.
two ways.
Do people hide it from them?
Maybe, and maybe that comes down. So I've worked for people. I can think of one person particularly who I got on brilliantly with. I would say he's probably within the top two of the best managers people I've ever worked with and helped develop me. But I would say 99% of everybody else who worked with him really, really didn't feel that way.
So it's interesting that, isn't it? So as a manager,
Yeah.
and that's why I come back to the emotional response. So it's you can't design a system for each individual, otherwise you would go insane. Which I think is interesting in the world you now live in health and are you wellness or well-being?
Oh,
Like,
occupational health and well-being. Is there a difference?
well, I don't know. I always think of wellness as scented candles from a certain base.
Well-being, then definitely.
That organization has good well-being. What does that mean?
I think there's some bits that you can do, like not accepting bullying and harassment as a general statement of fact. You're never going to necessarily get rid of all of it. You might still get the odd person here and there, but as a company, some places it's endemic and some places it isn't, and that's a change. But we can't do safety in a systematic way for some of those things either, because people are taller, shorter, fatter, thinner, have different strength levels. So it's either you either try and make it cover the biggest bit of the bell curve for the most people, which is how I think we've always done physical safety.
Mm-hmm.
And then for well-being or psychological safety, I think we probably tend to do a bit more for the people on each end, for the people who are neurodiverse or pregnant or a different age group. And it's possibly about being the less bad fit.
So is the well-being role then to focus on making sure that the outliers are comfortable and less focused on the majority of the bell curve who fit into the model?
It's a bit of both, I think, but for the way I'm sort of trying to tackle it, I'm focusing a lot on how our work affects people's well-being. So if we're working ridiculous hours and everyone's knackered, no one's going to be at their best. So we can control that fatigue bit. And it's not going to be perfect for everybody, because some people might be B12 deficient or have chronic fatigues and whatever, but we can at least make it not really shit for everybody.
In the past, or a lot of our emotional support came from our communities.
Yeah.
So, you know, we were part of, we knew our neighbours and we were part of, you know, we had a wider group of bigger families and things like this. We don't have the community anymore. So then the workplace becomes your
Yeah.
community and your support system. Does that then make the workplace responsible for you for being your community? Which then becomes really odd when you start thinking, well, what is the purpose of an organization, which essentially is normally to make money? You know, it's profit.
I have been known to mutter when I've been asked to, are we going to do something that I think is so far out of normal scope, that I have been known to mutter, we're not actually everybody's mum. Do you think spiders only live at the bottom levels of Maslow's hierarchy? Like, is your
I
ability to tolerate the spider in the room better if you're in a better, more comfortable place because you're not worrying about those other things?
I think that's true.
Yeah.
I think the higher up an organization you get, your options increase.
Mm-hmm. You shouldn't take criticism from someone you wouldn't take advice from.
Ooh, ooh, that's it. Don't take
I
advice.
only read it last week or something, and it's still buzzing around in my head. I quite like it.
Don't take criticism from you wouldn't take advice from. I think that's interesting. I'll have to think about that.
Well, I think I've given you two things today to
Two
ponder,
things
which
to
is
think
unusual
about.
for me.
You
That's
always
normally
give
very much the other way around.
you always give me things to think about. Okay, we should probably try and find an end somewhere here. Okay, so let's look at so whose responsibility in an organization then is it to find what the spiders are?
Everybody's? Is that a rubbish answer?
It's a rubbish answer because I don't think so because that's just like saying, well, safety is everybody's
I know.
priority. That's you should be you
You
should be
know,
a
it's that sort of,
consultant.
I ducked away as if you were here, like a doof.
You should be a consultant, Joe, without or a politician with that sort of rubbish answer. Um,
I've put in here, not around the spiders, but one of the notes I wrote when I was reflecting on your Substack is, where's the recognition that coaching isn't always the answer? When does it become just like speaking slower and louder for someone who speaks a foreign language?
Thank you, Joe.
Thank you.
Always good. If you like these things, you can watch them on YouTube and subscribe and follow me on Substack and follow Jo on LinkedIn where she's nice to people. And we'll see you for the next one. Thank you. Bye.
Thanks, Mick. Bye.